Welcome to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, respective radio stations island-wide, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 17, 2026. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Justice, Natalie Tacklin, to address you. Minister Tacklin, you have the floor.
Good morning, Rolika. Good morning to my colleague ministers, members of the press, and the people of St. Martin. It's nice to be back here with you after a few weeks. And before I begin today's updates, though, I would like to extend my deepest condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones of the two young men who recently lost their lives in separate motorcycle accidents. These tragedies are heartbreaking, particularly because they involve young lives with futures still ahead of them. On behalf of the Ministry of Justice, I wish their families strength and comfort during this difficult time. I also want to take this opportunity to encourage all road users to exercise caution and responsibility. Whether you're driving a car, riding a motorcycle, or using our roads in any capacity, the decisions that you make behind the wheel have real consequences. Road safety is a shared responsibility, and every life lost is one too many. Turning now to the work of the ministry. Over the past several weeks, the Ministry of Justice has remained active on multiple fronts. While much attention has been given to my recent working visits to Trinidad, Vienna, and the Netherlands, it's important to note that the day-to-day work of the justice chain continued uninterrupted. During my work visits, I represented St. Martin during a series of international and kingdom-level engagements, including the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, the CIFATF, in Trinidad, the United Nations Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, the CCPCJ, in Vienna, and a subsequent work visit to the Netherlands. These engagements focused on issues that are directly relevant to St. Martin, including financial crime, youth violence prevention, illegal firearms, cybercrime, border management, detention reform, rehabilitation and reintegration, and institutional strengthening. At the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force meetings in Trinidad, discussions focused on St. Martin's ongoing efforts to strengthen its anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing framework. This work is important because it directly impacts the integrity and reputation of St. Martin's financial sector and, by extension, confidence in our wider economy. While progress made over the past year was recognized and applauded, it was also clear that significant work remains to address outstanding deficiencies and successfully exit the current follow-up process. A key message from the CIFATF Secretariat was that although St. Martin's next evaluation isn't scheduled until 2032, that the preparation cannot wait until then. The readiness window opens much earlier, actually from 2027, it's the period 2027 until 2032, and meaningful preparation must begin soon if we are to achieve a successful outcome in 2032. The ministry has already begun taking steps to position St. Martin for this next phase. In the coming period, we will continue to work with our local, kingdom, and international partners to strengthen coordination, address outstanding gaps, and ensure that the necessary foundations are in place well ahead of the next evaluation cycle. In Vienna, I attended a series of bilaterals and tripartite meetings with UN experts and contributed directly to the international dialogue through two side events held during the Commission. At a session focused on advancing access to justice for women through the implementation of the Bangkok Rules, I highlighted the importance of gender-responsive justice systems and the need to ensure that rehabilitation, reintegration, mental health support, and family connections form part of justice responses for women and girls. The Bangkok Rules are a set of 70 international standards adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2010 that outline the distinct needs of female offenders and prisoners and how to address those needs, considering that standard prisons are typically designed for men. I also participated in a side event on penal reform in small island context, where I shared St. Martin's experience under the Detention Sector Reform Program and discussed the unique opportunities and challenges that we face as we pursue detention reform. These engagements provided an important opportunity to ensure that our experience and perspective remain part of the broader international discussions on criminal reform. The working visit to the Netherlands built directly on many of the discussions that took place in Vienna. While the Commission focused on broader international developments and emerging challenges, the meetings in the Netherlands allowed us to explore how some of those discussions translate into practical support, expertise, and cooperation that benefit St. Martin. Conversations focused on issues such as youth crime prevention, illegal firearms, customs modernization, border management, financial intelligence, detention reform, rehabilitation, and institutional capacity building. I'm excited to provide further updates on these topics as they continue to develop over the coming months. I also had the opportunity to visit 2 correctional facilities in the Netherlands and meet directly with St. Martiners currently serving their sentences abroad. These conversations provided valuable insight into rehabilitation, reintegration, and the challenges faced by those who are preparing to eventually return back to our society. The purpose of these visits was not simply to attend meetings. It was to ensure that St. Martin remains connected to expertise, knowledge, insights, and of course, partnerships that can help inform future decision-making, strengthen our justice sector, and support ongoing reform efforts across the board. Here at home, our Immigration and Border Protection Services continue to carry out their important responsibilities in support of border management, immigration services, and public safety. In addition to these operational activities, IBPS is preparing for a number of important developments that will impact applicants, employers, and other stakeholders. I want to encourage members of the public, employers, and other stakeholders to attend an upcoming employment and residence permit information session on June 25th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. So that's on June 25th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And it's here at the Government Administration Building in rooms 1 and 2 down the hall. During this session, Immigration and Border Protection Services will provide attendees with information on employment and resident permit procedures, and attendees will have the opportunity to ask questions and gain an understanding of the application process. Registration will take place at the door, and seating is limited. At the same time, the ministry continues to advance the modernization of immigration services. I'm pleased to share with the public that the FMS system, which is the new immigration system that we've been talking about for the past year, is in its final stages of implementation. This important project is approaching its scheduled go-live phase, with final preparations currently underway. Once operational, the system will support more efficient permit processing, improved record management, and the continued modernization of immigration services. Over the next 2 weeks, you will receive further updates on this with informational videos going out, and for now, our tentative go-live date is for July 1st. Our police force also continues to carry out enforcement operations aimed at addressing violent crime, illegal firearms, narcotics-related offenses, and other threats to public safety. Through ongoing investigations, targeted operations, and visible policing efforts, KPSM remains actively engaged in maintaining and managing public order and strengthening community safety across the island. The Customs Department likewise continues to strengthen border controls and enforcement efforts across the island. Customs officers have intensified operational activities at ports of entry, marinas, and border points while maintaining a visible enforcement presence throughout the community. These efforts are aimed at improving compliance, reinforcing border security, and maintaining a proactive posture against any illicit activity. Within victim support services, important work continues to support victims of crime, particularly victims of domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Recent participation in the Victim Support Europe Conference provided valuable opportunities for learning, collaboration, and the exchange of best practices with professionals from across Europe. Discussions reinforced the importance of maintaining a victim-centered approach throughout the justice process and highlighted the continued need for strong coordination across the justice chain. Locally, Victim Support Services has also continued its Power to Change Women's support group and welcomed regional partners from the No Mas No More network as part of ongoing efforts to strengthen responses to domestic violence and gender-based violence throughout the Dutch Caribbean. As Minister, I remain encouraged by the dedication of the many professionals working throughout our justice chain. While challenges remain, meaningful progress is being made across a number of areas, often quietly and without headlines. The work of strengthening public safety, improving our institutions, reforming detention, modernizing our systems, supporting victims, and protecting our borders is ongoing. The Ministry of Justice remains fully engaged in that work, and we will continue to keep the public informed as these initiatives progress. Thank you, and I remain available for any questions.
Thank you, Minister Tacklin, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transportation, and Telecommunication, Grisha Heilige-Martin, to address you. Minister Heilige-Martin, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you, Rolika. Good morning to my colleague ministers. Good morning to the media. And good morning to Swaliga, everyone in Sweet St. Martin land. Over the past several weeks, we have celebrated student achievement, welcome home graduates, commemorated Flag Day, and witnessed active civic engagement within our community. While these events may appear very different, they all share a common theme in what the Minister of Justice just mentioned: progress. Progress through education, progress through national pride, progress through civic participation, and progress through the collective efforts of people working every day to move our country forward. As government and certainly within the Ministry of TIAT, we remain committed to ensuring that progress is not accidental but intentional. That is what our forward by design approach is about, making deliberate decisions today that help create a stronger, more resilient St. Martin tomorrow. With that, I would like to now turn to today's updates. Economic development begins with people. That is why I would like to first highlight opportunities currently available through the St. Martin Entrepreneurship Development Center, SEDC. Registrations remain open for several upcoming training opportunities being offered through SEDC, Advanced Educational Program, targeting entrepreneurs, small business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, and members of the creative sector. As a ministry, we recognize that supporting entrepreneurship is about more than access to financing. It is also about equipping people with the knowledge, the skills, the tools, and necessary to compete, and succeed. The upcoming courses focus on public relations, social media marketing, financial management and decision-making, and opportunities within the creative and film industry. For a registration fee of just $35 per course, participants gain access to professional level training that would ordinarily cost significantly more. Strong business contribute to a stronger economy, and by investing in our entrepreneurs, we're investing in innovation, job creation, and long-term economic resilience. I encourage all interested persons to take advantage of this opportunity and register through SEDC's website or Facebook page. For more information, you can also call SEDC at 556-5653. That's 556-5653 this week, as most of the courses are slated to begin next week. While we support businesses and entrepreneurship, we must also ensure that the marketplace remains fair, transparent, and compliant. For that reason, I would like to provide an update on recent inspections conducted by the Inspection Department of Economic and Transport Affairs, IATA. Over the past several months, IATA has intensified inspections across the multiple sectors to protect consumers, promote fair competition, and ensure compliance with applicable laws and regulations. These inspections focused on maximum price control, price display requirements, business and operational licenses, permit conduct conditions, and fuel pump calibration standards. Today, fines totaling 5,125 guilders has been issued to supermarkets and retail establishments for violations related to maximum price regulations and failure to display prices and licensing non-compliance. An additional 2,350 guilders in fines has been issued following inspections of petrol stations related to businesses, with several cases still under review. One of the areas deserving special attention is fuel pump calibration. While most pumps inspected were operating within acceptable standards, several were found to be outside the legal permitted tolerance levels. So these pumps were immediately removed from service until corrective measures were taken and compliance was verified. This demonstrates that our inspection framework is working, and when issues are identified, corrective actions are taken. These inspections are not intended to hinder businesses. Their purpose is to ensure that a level playing field to protect consumers and to support businesses that are operating responsibly. IATA will continue conducting both routine and unannounced inspections throughout 2026. Protecting consumer becomes even more important during periods of emergency. As we continue through the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season, I would like to advise that the public and the business community that updated maximum price lists for hurricane and disaster-related items will be published shortly. As in previous years, maximum prices will be established for selected food items, hardware, and construction materials, and certain pharmaceutical and medical products. These measures are designed to help prevent price gouging and ensure that essential goods remain reasonably accessible during emergencies. I encourage residents not to wait until a storm is approaching, but prepare early, remain informed, and take the necessary steps to protect your families and properties. Preparedness remains our best defense. Speaking of preparation and long-term investment, I am pleased to announce to provide an update on the Phillipsburg Marketplace redevelopment project. The ministry has officially received the updated building permit from the Ministry of Economy, clearing an important milestone in allowing the project to move fully into its next phase. Discussions are currently underway between the contractors, the project management team, and the relevant stakeholders to finalize the construction schedule and conduct upcoming works. Preparatory activities has been completed and the construction planning is advancing steadily. The Phillipsburg Marketplace remains one of the most important investments in the revitalization of Phillipsburg, supporting our vendors, enhancing the visitor experience, and creating a modern and functional marketplace for years to come. As I have stated before, our vendors will be informed first, and they will be the stakeholders most directly affected, as they are the ones that are most directly affected by this project and deserve to receive updates before broader announcements are made. The momentum is moving in the right direction, and we remain committed to seeing this project through its completion. That commitment to economic development extends beyond infrastructure. It also includes supporting cultural tourism and entertainment initiatives that generate economic activities through our community. I would therefore like to address recent public discussions regarding the Council of Advice's remarks to the draft 2026 budget, particularly as it relates to the Soul Beach and Carnival. First, government respects the role of the Council of Advice. Proper procedure, proper documentation, and parliamentary oversight and transparency remain important principles and will be addressed through the appropriate channels. At the same time, accountability should never be discussed in isolation from economic impact. Soul Beach and Carnival are not simply budget lines. They affect hotel workers, taxi drivers, booth holders, restaurants, vendors, performers, production crews, security personnel, cleaners, and countless small businesses throughout the country. With respect to Soul Beach, I requested an independent SARE review because I believe the conversation should be guided by data rather than speculation. The SARE report referenced approximately 2,556 international visitors, over the 525,000 in operational spending, a tourist-related economic activity estimated up to $7.26 million US dollars, while noting that higher estimate should be treated with caution. Even under more conservative assumptions, the report points a significant economic activity generated for the country. The decision, therefore, should not be whether accountability matters. It does. The decision should be how we can continue improving accountability while also recognizing the economic value these events bring to our people and our economy. The people of St. Martin deserves accountability, but they also deserve the complete picture. Thank you, and I welcome questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Heilige Martin, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luc Marcelino, to address you. Prime Minister Marcelino, you have the floor.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Members of the media, and of course members of the Department of Communication of Government, my fellow colleagues, Minister Taklin and Minister Grisha Heilige Maarten, and of course the people of St. Martin, good morning. Today I wish to address several matters that have generated public discussion in the recent weeks and which I think are important to maintaining public confidence in government and in our institutions. As Prime Minister, I have consistently maintained that transparency, accountability, integrity, and good governance must remain the foundation of public service. Equally important is our responsibility to ensure that public discussions are guided by facts, as the Minister of TS just said. Facts, the reality is also important, and it must always be verified by information and due process. This morning, I will provide updates on actually three matters, and if there are other questions on other topics, they are of course welcome. The first one is the factual review that has been conducted within the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, known as VSA. The second topic that I would like to touch base on is the recent developments within NVGB's management structure. And as third, the recruitment process for executive leadership positions within NVGEBE. First of all, regarding the factual review by the Ministry of VSA. To start with, as of the 4th of June 2026, I'm the acting Minister of VSA. And already on Monday, the 15th of this week, I had already a meeting with the management teams of the Ministry of VSA. It was a very effective, constructive, and informative meeting that we had with each other, to actually with the main purpose to continue giving continuity to the VSA services towards the community of St. Martin. But over the past several weeks, various allegations and statements have been circulated publicly regarding the Ministry of VSA, and by extension also regarding my role as acting Minister of VSA. Given the seriousness of these allegations and the importance of maintaining public trust in our institutions, I requested a factual review by the Ministry's administration to determine whether any formal complaint, reports, documented concerns, or official allegation has been submitted through the established administrative channels. The review was conducted by the Secretary General of VSA, and the following has been confirmed. There are no formal complaints filed in the Ministry of VSA. There are no official reports submitted. no documented allegations were recorded. No requests for intervention were received through established ministry procedures. No evidence was found supporting the allegations that had been publicly suggested, also directed to me. These findings are, I think, very important because they distinguish between speculation, verified facts, and of course the overwhelming political rhetoric that actually nowadays is bringing a lot of unrest in the community, and I think unnecessary, and actually hampering a stable, healthy progress of this country. The government of St. Martin fully supports the right, of course, of every civil servant to raise concerns through the appropriate channels without fear or of retaliation. That is very, very important. Those safeguards remain firmly at place. We have to make sure that we have a healthy working environment. At the same time, allegations must be supported by evidence and addressed through established procedures. Public accusations alone do not constitute proof, of course. The factual review has now been completed, and the findings are evident and clear. That is topic number one. Secondly, concerning the transition that we're in with the management of GEBE. As many are aware, changes have recently occurred within the company's management structure. Following, first of all, the resignation of the temporary manager, Mr. Rugendorf, measures were taken to ensure continuity of operation and organizational stability. Important to know is that the resignation came from the side of Mr. Rugendorf himself. In addition, the financial consultancy arrangement that was made with Mr. Wilco Seinen has also been discontinued, in the sense that he himself canceled on his own request the consultancy arrangement that was made. That is the second one. And thirdly, concerning the COO, no SLA agreements could be reached with the potential candidate for the COO function or position due to the fact that the LNT, and that is an abbreviation for the Landsverordening Normering Top Inkomens, that is an indication that we have for the higher paid segment of the labor establishment. We have a top income formula. They used to call it the Balkan and the norm, the Jacobs norm. That is what we're using now for the top income segment of the society. Actually, we could not deviate from the LNT, and that is also the reason that a SLA for the COO could not be reached. The focus is on continuity, stability, of course, sound governance, and ensuring that the people of St. Martin continue to receive reliable electricity and water service. And of course, government will continue to maintain constructive engagement with the supervisory board while fully respecting the distinction between shareholder oversight and operational management. Topic number 3 is now the recruitment process for the CEO, the CFO, and the COO position. Of course, questions have been raised regarding the recruitment process for the C-suite level of this company. And as I have said already, due to the fact that we could not deviate from the LNT, we could not get to an agreement on SLA, the service level agreement level with the COO potential candidate. And the potential CEO Actually, that was not there yet, but in the function of a temporary manager, he resigned and submitted his resignation. And the financial technician actually supporting the management team that had actually a consultancy agreement with GEBE canceled his consultancy agreement. And that means that at this particular moment, a official future, nearby future C-level accommodation is again a topic that we have to make sure that we get filled in as soon as possible. We have the supervisory board of GEBE has decided to reopen the recruitment process for the C-level suite of GEBE. To ensure maximum transparency, objectivity, fairness, and credibility, the recruitment exercise will now again be conducted through an independent professional recruitment firm. And in this case, the process will encompass the recruitment for the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, the Chief Financial Officer, the CFO, and the Chief Operation Officer, the COO. This approach reflects a commitment to strengthening, of course, the corporate governance and ensuring that the most qualified candidates are selected through a process that inspires confidence among employees, stakeholders, and the public. During this transition period, I wish to reaffirm government's full commitment and confidence, of course, now in Mrs. Iris Arendel, who has been appointed temporary manager now of NVGEBE. Mrs. Arendel brings valuable institutional knowledge, professionalism, and strong commitment to ensuring stability during this important period for the company. She continues to receive the cooperation and support of management and staff and has demonstrated a clear focus on maintaining operational continuity and organizational stability already in the past. So now we are awaiting the new recruitment process. In the meantime, we have a good, reliable, knowledgeable, and experienced captain in the form of a temporary manager for GEBE, and we are looking forward to the new recruitment of a new C-suite level for GEBE. Important also is that some statement has been made in social media about foreigners having the opportunity to take over GEBE, and they were pointing, of course, to the recent temporary manager, for example. But for clarity's sake, in 2024, when I took over as Prime Minister, a month later, we landed in this national energy crisis, and we did not have a C-suite accommodated at that particular moment for GEBE. And important to mention is that the action plan of the government in that time was just to go back to BDO that was in that time appointed by the former government of St. Martin before I took over. And they decided with BDO to do the selection procedure. And with their selection procedure, this temporary manager that recently resigned, that all of a sudden now is a foreigner and being accentuated, is just the candidate that was selected by the former government through appointing the BDO to do a selection. So we have nothing to do with the selection procedure that was made at that time. We just took over the outcome for that selection procedure through BDO, and we just followed up because it was urgent. We needed an indication of potential candidates, and in that time we said for us to restart everything, we're just going to give continuity to the process. And that is actually how this candidate that Until recently, we were negotiating with were all selected by the former government through appointing the BDO to do the recruitment for them. So I do not understand that whole discussion that was recently taking place in our community. But okay, we have to move forward. We are not going to look backward, and we're going to start a new recruitment process. It's going to be given in the hands of professionals with experience in the recruitment, and they will take it over, and as soon as a selection has been done, the supervisory board will present the candidates to the shareholder, being the government of St. Martin. If there are any questions, of course, you guys are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister Marcelino, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. Thank you for joining us. We now move over to the question and answer session, and Emil Lee of Island 92 Radio, you have the floor.
My question is for the Prime Minister. Good morning. Thank you for your statement. So this is perhaps a hard question. There were some pretty serious allegations from the outgoing Minister of VSA made. You mentioned that you've done a review with the ministry. I could imagine you're a strong-willed character, you're the Prime Minister, and you're the acting Minister of VSA, that it might be difficult for staff members to speak up. So what is the policy in terms of, let's say, sort of a whistleblower protection, or if a person felt like they wanted to speak up, what is government's policy in terms of protecting that person? Would there be still some sort of a third-party independent review, or is that the end of this review process? And I understand that the acting minister function is something that's decided within the Council of Ministers. And have you considered perhaps rotating or switching the acting minister's positions? In other words, that you take a different ministry as acting minister instead of the Ministry of VSA.
Thank you for the question. I expected a hard question, Mr. Lee. I don't find it so hard, but okay. The last question first is considering not taking the position of acting minister. First of all, when you form a government, you sign a government agreement, an accord, then you have a governing program, and the formation phase also, you are going to negotiate portfolios. So in this case, the URSM got the portfolio of general affairs connected to the Prime Minister, secondly VSA, and the Minister Plenipotentiary in Den Haag. So that deal is a deal by the front door. Secondly, when we assume our position, we also make through a landsbesluit, national decree, we sign the vervangingsregeling. So at that moment, through a landsbesluit, you are going to agree with each other who is actually replacing which minister in her or his absence. That landsbesluit has already been established and ratified. So in this case, the URSM deal in this is, or actually not the URSM, the ministers in the Council of Ministers have agreed with each other that in the case, for example, of replacement for the Minister of VSA, that will be the Minister of General Affairs. So we are just following the ratification of the landsbesluit that was made by day one when we started with the new government for St. Martin. And thirdly, it's very awkward discussion of I should be the one. Yes, I should be the one because of the fact that we have to adhere to the landsbesluit for the vervangingsregeling, for the replacement arrangement that we have. But there should be also, except of political rhetoric, there should be some factual ground to start a discussion like that. So what I did is I just went to I directed the letter to the Secretary General, without even going to the departments. And I told her, you are actually the boss of the ministry as Secretary General. There are a lot of allegations. Please check in the ministry if this is true, because the allegations are politically sensitized. I mean that politically these discussions started. It's not from the civil servants, believe me, this is all politics. But what I wanted is to show the community of St. Martin, the people of St. Martin, that there is a big difference between playing politics with the sentiment of the people of St. Martin, in contrary to trying to destroy people with a good heart and integrity for the country. And that's why I'm so happy that this answer came back from the ministry. And actually, I can tell you, I had recently, Monday past, a great meeting with the management team of VSA. And there was a great ambiance there, fantastic, very professional, very warm. So with this information combined with the outcome of the investigation that the Secretary General of VSA did, I wanted to prove the political arena that they have to stop with how they are busy playing politics in this country, actually destroying reputation of people and professionals and bringing unnecessary confusion in our society. Mr. Lee St. Martin is going through some challenging times, and not only St. Martin, the world is going. We are going through our hardship here. I have full empathy and understanding, and I'm doing what I can with the government of St. Martin to do what we can. But we have to realize that all countries in the world, especially those in the developing countries, are going through some hardships. And it's not time now to play the politics that those are playing now. It's a time now for us to unite, for us to be focused, and for us to do the best for the people of St. Martin.
So just for clarification, so is there, what is government's policy
Yes.
about sort of whistleblowers?
Yeah.
And does this conclude any investigations?
Yes, of course. Because of the allegations that the former minister presented, he decided that he is going to consult the Integrity Chamber, and the Integrity Chamber is planning to do an investigation also. So it's not only that my Secretary General from the organization did it, it's going to also be conducted by the Integrity Chamber, and I think it should be done also. It's very important that you have that space, for that culture, that investigations are possible, and the Integrity Chamber also is going to do their part for the investigation, especially those political insinuations. Next to that, the Integrity Chamber on its own already, loose from all this, is also presented a whistleblower policy to actually contribute to a work climate in which everybody feels safe to signal when something is not correct on the work floor. But actually, without a whistle-blowing policy, personally, I think that should be already the case for the government of St. Martin. I do believe that there are established channels now that if something uncomfortable happen on the work floor, that there are evident guidelines how that should be taken care of, and the civil servants know that too. We are still living in the perception of retaliation because of politics, how it has been done in the past. People are scared. Be careful. I can tell you the cultus of this government, and for sure this Prime Minister, is that everybody has the free carte blanche to especially do and say what they think and feel, and everything that they feel unhappy or uncomfortable with, they should bring to the floor for us to take care of. And I can tell you in my specific case, on a daily basis, civil servants knock at my door. They know that I have an open door policy, and whatever they feel is not correct, they even feel that they should come directly to the Prime Minister by still respecting the hierarchy in the organization. They know they have to go through their department heads, but still they have the freedom here that they knock very often at my door, and I appreciate that enormously.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I would now like to invite Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, ministers. I would like to pose a question to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice together. if that's
Together?
possible.
Okay. Maybe you want to start first? No, it's okay. No problem.
Article 30 of the Constitution of St. Martin provides it reads, suspects shall be kept separate from convicted offenders and may claim separate treatment in accordance with their status as a non-convicted person. In the case of Dr. Danny Denui, he is, according to his family, sharing a cell with convicted Marlon Brooks, who was convicted to 16 years for the near murder of Astika Hali. He was led into the courtroom on May 20 in a khaki prison suit by 4 policemen, had not been allowed to shave. The judge didn't know how to pronounce his name, didn't really know what he has done for the community. And during his pro forma hearing, the prosecutor was not able to present any evidence. And that's why there's a new pro forma hearing in September when everybody is returned from their vacation. And so he has to stay in the cell with Mr. Brooks for another 4 months. Meanwhile, the woman that issued these allegations has been detained on the French side, and she was deported. The French authorities put her on a plane last Thursday. So now there's no alleged victim no more. What can and will the government of St. Martin do to protect the constitutional rights of this St. Martin-born suspect?
Jacqueline, I think this is not the first time that you've tried to ask about individual cases, for which I've said the ministry will not comment on individual cases. I find this level of biased reporting also very concerning, and that you would bring it here into the press briefing. That being said, you've also been explained that the ministry has nothing to say about pretrial detention. His pretrial detention was ordered by a judge, not by me, and by the prosecutor. And the family is, of course, open to exhaust all legal measures available to them should they not agree with his detention. So I think that that answers that question. And as for your other questions, I think you've also posed those already by email, and the prison will be responding to those.
Can I just clarify? The prosecutor has stated that
Thank
placement
you.
in the prison is the responsibility of the Ministry of Justice.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Minister gave her opinion on that, and we will proceed. I would now like to move on to the second round. Emil, you have the floor.
My question, I think, is for the Prime Minister. So I've taken note of a release that says that the 2026 budget is going to Parliament. That the 2026 budget is 647 million guilders, which is an increase of about 12.7%, based on also an increase in income. So interestingly, because we're more than halfway through the year, you are still operating on the 2025 budget, which was 574 million guilders. So I'm trying to understand how this is going to work. If the budget gets approved, all of a sudden you have this increased budget, which was supposed to be spent over the year, but now you have to spend it over the few remaining months of 2026. And so how will it work in terms of your increased budget? What will the impact be? Does that mean that that total budget will be spent in the increase will be spent in the last few months of the year? And is the increased revenue that's been projected for the budget actually happening? Is it true?
I hope it's true. What we are stating in the budgets of a country, this is a serious law on which we base our governing of the country. The budget 2020 is not going to Parliament. It is now by Parliament, so that is just for clarity's sake. And secondly, we are going to try to handle the budget as soon as possible. The moment we get the call from Parliament, we are going to actually present in Parliament to actually present the budget to Parliament for their approval. And at the end of the day, it's going to end up in a public meeting, and you know how that goes. And then from there, once it's approved, we're going to apply it. For the continuity of governance, this budget that is delayed did not have an impact, because most of the time, if you follow the pattern of budgets, it's actually in a form that the routine items are being budgeted in a form, calculated in a form that they service the daily necessity of the functioning of the country. That there is, of course, an increase in the budget compared to 2025. That is true. Actually, what is going to happen then with a acceleration speed, then those extras are going to be actually approved. So new investments that actually everybody were working already on, that are on hold just for the financial approval. Everybody are already in the start blocks, ready to the moment that it passed. They just finalize the documents because there is financial backing, and we will proceed immediately with the use of those, especially those investments or projects that we were planning to execute, that are already ready in the start blocks. It's a matter of approving the finance, give green light, and we can move on with the country.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Thank you. A question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, in January, a new Inspector General for VSA was appointed.
Yes.
He came from Curaçao.
Yeah.
This Mr. Alcala, he was once before an acting Inspector General in Curaçao.
Yep.
At the time, he received several complaints about sexual abuse of female patients by a doctor in Curaçao. This doctor had been suspended in Holland for the same reason. He then took a plane, went to Curaçao, started to work at the Advent Hospital, started to abuse female patients. They filed complaints with Mr. Alcala, and he ignored the complaints. What followed was an ombudsman investigation. The next Inspector General was Gershi Pereira. He said he had never received a file from Mr. Alcala. Then Pereira was sent home, and then Mr. Jan Huurman became the Inspector General. And only 6 years later, Dr. Bakir was brought before the Judicial Tribune. So my question is, how can an Inspector General that disqualified himself in Curaçao as an Inspector General now be overseeing the total health care on St. Martin?
I find what you're presenting here very, very heavy allegations. I am, as of the 5th of this month, I'm the acting minister of VSA. So actually, if we have had before this a minister too, unfortunately is not here more to actually give answer to that, because in the time of the procurement and process to nominate a inspectorate, I was not involved. That is a case for the minister of VSA at that time. I'm since the 5th of June the acting minister of VSA. And to be very honest with you, I am not aware of these heavy allegations, and I hope you are well documented in your statements, because they are very, very heavy allegations that you're presenting here. I'm very impressed with what you're stating here, but I would look into what you're stating here. Imagine that it's not true. what for damage are we doing to a professional that comes over to contribute to healthcare of this country? You know, I am realizing more and more since I made the step from a professional as a medical doctor, surgeon to government. This world works the opposite side. We start destroying people, then we're going to check if it's true, and then we're going to judge the person, and that is the mark he will get for the rest of his life here, and he came here to actually contribute to that there should be check and balances. I think that is correct. And if that is the case, the check and balances has failed under the former Minister of VSA. But I'm not telling you that he failed. But if what you are saying is true, the check and balances has failed, if that is the case. For example, you said something that he worked by the Advance Hospital in
Dr. Najib Akir.
the new inspector at work there?
No, Dr. Najib Akir was
okay,
a surgeon
because I'm
at
not
the
aware.
Advent
Okay,
Hospital.
okay, yeah,
He
no.
abused patients.
Yeah.
He was suspended in
Yeah,
Holland.
okay,
Those
yeah.
complaints were filed with the inspection,
Okay, but-
and those were ignored for several
Okay, but
years.
I'm very impressed that you dare to bring this like that on the floor, because these are very, very serious allegations. And I have no restrictions to look into the file, but I'm very scared to start with these heavy allegations, and perhaps maybe it's not true, and you harm the person for nothing. So we have to be very, very careful when we are actually making use of such platforms to discuss such matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We now move on to the third round. We do have 3 minutes. I will allow the last question.
For Minister of TIA. Minister, the Association for Consumer Protection, as you know, they had their rally and they presented a document to GB. But just to get to the public's expectations in line, it's my understanding that quite a few issues related to GB actually will fall under your ministry. In other words, the base rate that GB charges is actually set by your ministry, and that base rate has not been updated, I think, for a long time. So there's research that needs to go into that. The ministry also is in charge of the fuel clause, as well as a net metering policy. So there's a number of things that fall under your ministry that will take a substantial amount of time. Can you perhaps explain to the public what state those are in and how much work it is to actually bring those up to modern times?
Thank you, Emil, for your question. As you know, the Minister of Vrami and myself has signed a decree to hire the BTP as a supervisor, as a representative for us to go and have a discussion with GEPE to provide us with information in order for us, or for me especially then, to review exactly those rates that you mentioned. The BTP has already had its preliminary meeting with GEBE about a week or maybe 10 days ago. The next steps now are for them to gather the information that we request. And then, of course, it'll take us some time internally to review. I mentioned it earlier a couple of weeks ago that, yes, I am responsible for these rates, but I cannot go in blindly and just create a rate. I need to understand their price makeup. I need to understand what financial consequences or commitments GB has before we even talk about making a change. So it seems positive. We are looking up further. I see the 1 minute thing. So we're looking forward to receiving the information, and then once we are able to get a full analysis of the rates, we'll be able to then inform the public accordingly.
Can you give us just a ballpark in terms of how much time that whole process will take, just so that consumers' expectations are aligned?
We would need a few months, because once we receive the information, it'll take some professionals a few months to really review the component of the rate. A couple of months. Yes?
Thank you, Minister Heilige Martin. Thank you, members of the media. That does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 17, 2026. For rebroadcast, tune into stmartingov.org, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.